Hi community, and welcome to another episode of the Multiple Birth Experience podcast. I hope you guys are doing well. I'm your host today, or every day. I'm Tola Imad, and today's episode is basically on transgender. I came across this story on Instagram and Snapchat actually. These twins, they're identical twin, female to male. Transgender twins. They were born as females and they transitioned to male. Their names are Angel and Fabian Griffin, and you know it's an interesting story because it's not often there are common stories out there about people transitioning from male to female or from female to male, but because we are the multiple birth experience, you know, it's only right that I put the story out on the twins, because you know, it's just I guess you never know who might be touched by the story. So twins Angel and Fabian Griffin are identical twins. They transitioned in their teens. Well, they found that they realized that they were different at the age of 9. You know, they said that while they were in school, they always felt different. They always felt different somehow, you know, and it made it more obvious about how they felt when they were playing with, you know, with the boys, because they would rather play football with the boys as opposed to playing with the girls, and they never really fitted in. Even though they liked to play football with the boys, they didn't feel like they fitted in, because obviously the boys knew they were girls, and then the girls would always say that they were gay and they didn't fit in with them either, because, you know, I guess they looked and acted different, you know. So they always kept to themselves, and you know, twins already, they always join at the hip. So they formed an even closer bond growing up because of how they felt inside of them, you know. So they noticed mostly in school. And then Fabian, he went to go and get some information about, well, I don't think he went to go and get information. He came across, I guess, information about transitioning, and I guess it hit home to him, and they identified with that situation because it kind of, they could relate to the story. They could relate to it basically, and whatever information he took, he got from his research, he passed it back to his twin Angel. You know, they never really told family and friends about it, because family and friends would always say that there was something wrong with them. They always looked at them as strange or weird, or, you know, they've got, you know, sometimes they just look at you and think, you know, whatever, what's that we talking about? You know, they don't take them too seriously, so they just kept it to themselves and didn't really share it with anyone, and they formed an even closer bond. I thought to myself, you know what? Let me share a clip of them telling their story, because it makes it more easier to kind of understand, as opposed to me just telling you guys, because I'm pretty much repeating what I found out, but it's easier to get the story when you hear it from the horse's mouth. So here it goes. I will play a recording right now. Bear with me, guys. Multiple birth experience.
This is Angel and Fabian Griffin, and we are identical twins, and we are female to male, and we identify as straight men. We always kind of realized that we were different since we were little. I would say the age of 9, we started seeing that behavior of playing football, playing more things that boys did versus what girls did, like, and that's when everybody was like, okay, because I feel like I was in a bad dream, and I feel like if I woke up just one day, maybe I would actually be in the right body. He got the information first. I got the information first, and I was able to provide it to him. Now I said, this is why we felt the way we always felt. Now we know this. That's basically how he said when we started. we only shared it with each other. It only made sense because we only understood each other versus someone else understanding because other people, like other family members, thought it was something wrong with us. We had no upbringing. We went to school with everybody and all the other kids, and we didn't know where to fit in at. Okay, we can't fight with the boys because the boys want to prove that we ain't boys, and we're getting fight with the girls because they think we're gay. They think we're gay, or they think that the fact is because we stay to ourselves because we only talk to each other. We are identical, but at the same time, I feel like we filming something. When we first got on testosterone, it does change you in some ways for your personality. You do come off a bit more aggressive. Good thing about it at the time, I was able to work those things by ourselves. We were by ourselves, so we were laughing at each other. That did bring us closer because the fact is we're seeing each other finally be able to achieve what we wanted to achieve. Actually, it's been pretty dope to see the outcome of our transition. Today, you got people blaming the internet, they blaming the media, they blaming the internet wasn't even that big back then. It wasn't even that big right then. It wasn't that much information out. Information on TV for anybody. They think being transgender means gay, lesbian. Right now at this point, got gays and lesbians telling us what to do with our body. At the end of that, y'all gotta understand that transgender are already going through a mental health dysphoria. You're throwing stones at someone who's already at a mental brink of not even knowing they even want to be on the earth. We are identical, but at the same time, I feel like we don't see it, but we see it. Can't really see it. You're ready to show a lot of visibility, shove it all in people's faces, and let them know we're not going nowhere. You know, we're here to stay, and we're going to get the respect that we are earned and deserved.
Yeah, and that is it. Tell me what you guys think about that. That is the transgender twins, Fabian and Angel. I don't want to say the wrong things because I'm not really aware like that when it comes to transgender and transition and the LGBTQ and things like that. But I just thought that the story was interesting about the twins transitioning from female to male because they said that they both felt like that, you know. And I think I've heard stories about twins both being, you know, gay and stuff, but I didn't think they would both feel the same way when it comes to transitioning. But you know, you learn something new every day. And yeah, tell me what you guys think in the comments, and in, you know, let's talk about this, have a discussion on this. Give me you guys' opinion, and you know, let's move on to the next story. Another story I wanted to share with you guys came out sometime at the ending of 2020, November, around, well, I got the story around November 2020, and I think it was also put out around November 2020 as well. It was about a woman who was in a coma. She got COVID. She suffered from COVID-19, the coronavirus, yeah. And she went into a coma, and she was actually pregnant while she caught the virus, while she caught the COVID-19 infection or virus or whatever the strain, yeah. So she was pregnant with twins, and she fell into a coma. And when she woke up from her coma, she realized that she gave birth to twins. So basically, she gave birth to twins while in her coma, you know. So she wakes up from a coma to find that she gave birth to twins. And when she went into a coma, she was around 24 to 25 weeks pregnant. So imagine being 24 to 25 weeks pregnant, and then you fall into a coma, and then, because 24, 25 is what? That's around 4 months, yeah? 4 or 5 months pregnant, I think. Yeah, about 4 or 5 months pregnant, between 4 and 5 months pregnant. And then you wake up to find that you given birth. So how long was you in coma? How long was you in a coma for you for that even to happen? I mean, it's not a funny situation. I'm just like, you know, I find it so like wow. Do you know what I'm saying? It's just shocking. You know, you just hear these kind of these stories. A hospital consultant whose twins were delivered prematurely while she was in a coma with COVID-19. It was amazing survival, they said. Mrs. Uke told Sky News, she said to Sky News, I was pregnant at 24 to 25 weeks at that stage, and by the time I woke up, I was so disoriented. I thought I had lost my pregnancy, she said, because I couldn't see the bump anymore. I was so worried. She said she was so worried because one minute she had a bump, a big belly, and then next minute she had a flat stomach. So of course she's going to be worried and concerned as to what was going on, because obviously, as far as she was aware, she was pregnant. So she's thinking, what happened to my stomach? Where's my babies? I'm assuming she would have been panicking because, you know, who you would be panicking. You know, you're pregnant with, you know, you're carrying twins, which is already a high risk pregnancy. You know, and then, you know, she wakes up from her coma, and then, you know, she knows for a fact she was pregnant, so she's wondering what's going on. She was so worried. Palmer, a girl, and a Pascal, a boy, were born on the 10th of April at just 26 weeks. See, I was just saying, how long was she in a coma for her to have given birth while she was in a coma? But clearly she wasn't in a coma that long before they made her, before they induced her to give birth. You know, because that's a long time to be in a coma, especially being sick. Because that COVID thing is really dangerous. I don't think they wanted to keep her, you know, pregnant for too long while being that sick. Because COVID is, you know, we all know how deadly that thing can be. So Palmer, she gave birth to a girl, Palmer, and a boy called Pascal on the 10th of April at 26 weeks, weighing only 770 grams and 850 grams. So I'm assuming the girl, Palmer, was 770 grams and the boy, Pascal, was 850 grams. Wow, what a blessing, what a miracle. I mean, you can't even make things like this. You can't even make it up. Coma and giving birth to twins. You know, this is such a amazing survival story. A blessing, you know. So yeah, if you have any stories out there you want to share with us, and, you know, put it out there onto, you know, to let the world know, or, you know, anything. If you want to share a story, if you want to share a story yourself, you can come onto the show and we can talk about it, or you can write into me via email or Instagram or Facebook for our socials, and just let us know, tell us what you want to share, tell us the story, and then we will share it ourselves on the podcast. So let's move on to the next story. Another story I came across, twins, identical twins. Now imagine being identical twins, yeah? Being adopted, and then while they were adopted, they were actually separated. So they weren't even adopted together as siblings, twins, you know, sisters. They weren't adopted together, they were separated. So they were adopted separately. So, and they still managed to live similar lives. That's crazy. They still managed to live similar lives despite being separated. And it's interesting because they often say twins can feel each other's pain, can hear each other, you know, they know everything about each other before it's even said. Now this story happened 35 years where they reunited. And it says here, despite being separated at birth and adopted by separate parents, sisters Paula Bernstein and Elise Skine live similar lives. They even got separate names, different names, but they're twins, identical twins. Imagine. I don't know, why would they separate identical twins? I think that's cruel, you know. I think that's really, really cruel for an adoption organization to have identical twins, even siblings at that, just siblings in general. Why would you separate twins, triplets, you know, multiple birth children that are, you know, that were born together? That's unfair. And then they've, you know, now they've got the separate names, they've lived separate lives, even though they still have similar, you know, characteristics. It's still, you know, it's sad. They both edited their high school newspapers, so they enjoyed, you know, newspaper editing in school, and they both studied film at university and became writers. They both became writers. Can you imagine? So they're so similar, even though they weren't together. Do you get what I'm saying? Yeah, they're so similar, but they weren't together. Wow. They both studied the same thing in school, and they both had the same exact interest in school. But the identical twins did not realize any of this until they met for the first time in 2003 at the age of 35. 35. Took them 35 years to find each other. That's crazy. What they also found out was that their separation was deliberate. Part of the controversial study on nurture versus nature, the truth of their separation was hidden from their adoptive parents. Can you imagine? So this was done on purpose. People are just playing with people's lives for the fun of it. So this was all entertainment for them. Can you imagine? This is just, it gets worse. So the adoptive parents was not even aware of what was going on, because this was a study you know, on nurture versus nature. That's just crazy. And it led to scientists that ended up stashing the research in a Yale University archive, knowing that it would be criticized. While we don't know his take on the nature versus nurture debate, or exactly how he tracked the lives of Bernstein and Skine, the twins have come to their own conclusions. Since meeting Elsie, it is undeniable that genetics play a huge role, probably more than 50%. Bernstein tells the Telegraph that it's not just our taste in music or books, it goes beyond that. In her, I see the same basic personality, and yet eventually we had to realize we're different people with different life histories. So they're basically saying when they met each other, they realized that even though they weren't together growing up, they still shared similar personalities, characteristics, and you know, just basically basic personalities. You know, even though they weren't together growing up, you know, they would have learned more. They would have learned more about each other if they grew up together. But you know, what can they do? They can't turn back time. But the fact that all of this was just pure entertainment for scientists it's ridiculous. You know, you can't play with people's lives like that. You know, these scientists people are crazy. Yale University they just stashed it in the university archive. So they separate them on purpose for research, only to stash it on the shelves because, you know, they were being criticized. They were afraid of being criticized by what they were doing, by the research and the results, I guess. You know, that's just ridiculous. Ridiculous. Another story. I think I've heard this one before. I wrote on this one before. I'm sure I did. The identical twins who earned perfect test scores. Or it might be similar. It might be another story, but similar. College entrance exams. The STAT and the ACT are dreaded but necessary evils for high school students trying to get ahead, and only the exceptional students will be able to ace them. But in 2008, identical Nebraska twins Brian and Ross DeVoe both managed to earn perfect scores on the ACT. I don't know what that is. I'm sure it's an American thing because we don't have that in the UK, or it might be somewhere abroad anyway. But congratulations to them. And I don't think I covered that story before because I don't recognize the names, but shout out to them. And yeah, let's move on to another story, one more before we wrap up. Now get into this. I'm not even gonna laugh because it's not funny, but it is kind of funny, but it's not funny. Identical twins who broke the same arm on the same day. So in 2014, 2-year-old Mitchell Cox from Manchester, England, fell off his backyard slide and was taken to the hospital. After a checkup, the lad was sent home with a clean bill of health. Hours later, the boy's identical twin, Elliot, tripped over the base of the same slide and was taken to the hospital. Doctors found he had broken his left arm, and while he was being treated, Mitchell said his left arm was hurting too. Doctors x-rayed the limb in question and found it to be broken as well. So basically, when one twin felt the pain, the other twin felt the pain. They both broke their arm on the same day and went to the same hospital, felt the same pain in the same place, the same part of their arm, everything the same. Wow, that's crazy. That's crazy. And you know what, well, I don't have identical twins. I've got fraternal twins, so they don't do the whole "I feel your pain, you feel my pain" kind of thing. But I mean, I don't. My nephews are identical, but they don't. I don't know. My sister hasn't shared those kind of stories before. I'm not saying it's not true, but that's interesting. That's really interesting. One more before we wrap up, and I'll keep saying one more, but one more for real before we wrap up. Now, I definitely haven't heard this one before, and I'm in the UK. I definitely haven't heard this, and this is interesting. I need to really look into this school. So basically, a British school had 20 sets of twins. 20 sets. That's crazy. 20 sets of twins in one school. A middle school in Lincolnshire, England, has a record-breaking 20 sets of twins in attendance. The school blew the previous record holder because, of course, the Guinness keeps tracks of this kind of thing. It blew out of the water by 12 sets. So the previous record was 12 sets less by another school. And this school in Britain, in England, beat that record by 12. They had 12 more sets of twins, which came to a total of 20. Most incredibly, the school welcomed not 1 or 2 sets of identical twins this past September, but 6. 6 sets of identical twins they welcomed, and all of whom started grade 7. Since the school requires students to dress in identical blue and white uniforms, it's proven difficult for the teachers to tell the siblings apart. Hey, that's funny. Because imagine going to a school and pretty much majority of the students are twins, identical twins. They all look alike. It's like, all I can think of is Noah's Ark, yeah? When all the animals came into the ark 2 by 2. So there was 2 elephants, 2 giraffes, 2 lions, 2 of everything, and you know they all look the same, the animals. So you can't even, you know, there's no point in trying to tear them apart because they're just animals. But that's all I can think of, them going to school, identical twins going into the school 2 by 2. The animals went in 2 by 2, hurrah, hurrah. Yeah, but instead of the animals, it's the twins. The twins went into school by 2, hurrah, hurrah. And they're all wearing the same uniform. The teachers can't tear them apart because they all have to wear the same thing, you know. That's so funny. That's so funny. It says we're looking to get little name badges for their blazers and labels so we can tell who's who, says one teacher. And when asked to explain the school's twin-filled 7th grade class, baffled educated resorted to blaming it on something in the water. How can they blame it on something in the water? They're the ones that chose to accept all those twins into their school. You know, it was their choice to accept all those twins. How can it be something in the water? You know, that's crazy. But you know what? Twins, identical twins is different from fraternal twins, because I was going to say there's a high rate of IVF twin pregnancies or even multiples in general, but twins is when the egg splits into 2, so that you can't make that happen. You can't create identical twins because the identicals, the egg splits naturally. I don't think you can actually split an egg into 2 yourself. Like, I can't think the doctors can physically split a fertilized egg into 2, like they put into they do the IVF process where they insert the fertilized or conceived egg into the woman's womb. I don't think they can actually split it into 2 to make identical twins. I think that's done kind of not automatically, like naturally. You know, that's a God-given thing. But that's a story. I'm going to look into that school though, because I want to know more about that story. 20 sets of twins in one school, and they're identical as well. You know, my daughter's school, I think they've got in their year, they've got about 3 sets of twins in their year, because they're in year 2, and in year 2 there's 3 sets including them, and they're all split up into different classes. So funny enough, I'm not the only one that separated the twins. Both my daughters have a twin in their class. So there's 2 twins including them in their class, and they've all been split. There's 3 year 2, so they've all been split up in 3 places basically. So that's just in year 2. So just imagine the rest of us, because I see a lot of other twins in year. I've seen twins in the reception. I've seen twins in year 1. I've seen twins in the upper year, and I've seen that couple of identical twins as well. I don't know if they're in the same classes, but that school have a lot of twins. My kids' school, they have a lot of twins. But yeah, that's it for today. I just wanted to share a few stories. A few twin stories. I haven't got much triplet stories or quad stories or sextuplets or the multiples, but if you have any stories to share, send them in. Email us at inquiries@themultiplebirthexperience.com, or you can just directly DM me on Instagram at TMBE podcast or TMBE official. We're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, and yeah, we hope you have a good weekend. Enjoy the rest of the day, enjoy the rest of the weekend, and we'll catch you on the next episode of the Multiple Birth Experience podcast. And I am out.